everybody, and welcome back to Tales from the Road. Some of my adventures that happen along the highways and byways of U.S. and Canada, but never Mexico. Anyways, this next tale comes to us from Nashville, and I titled it my first recording session. It was the first session that I did in Nashville, and it's actually the first session I ever did in a quote-unquote, real studio. So this time I had moved from Dickerson Road to 16th Avenue South, so I got upgraded from a trailer park to living on Music Row. And shortly after I moved there, I guess, word gets out, you talk to people, they knew that I was a drummer, and there was a bass player that lived in the building. Now, the bass player I had mentioned in another tale, he was the guy with the golden rocket. But in there was a guy who had moved there from San Francisco, and he was a songwriter. And I got to talking with him, and he says, "Man, I want to cut a demo. Would you be interested in playing on it?" I go, yeah, of course. So it was basically like a 10-song demo that he was going to do. And we rehearsed in his apartment, which was downstairs. Now, this apartment building that I lived in was actually a house, but in this part of Nashville, they have these old houses, and they're humongous, because I guess extended families used to live in them. And so, he had the downstairs apartment, which was the biggest. I lived upstairs, and I think the bass player lived upstairs, like around the corner from me. So we're rehearsing, like about every day, going over the tunes and everything. And I remember that every afternoon when I go there for rehearsal, I'd sit out on the front porch, like waiting for everybody, and I just remember every day I'd see like Waylon Jennings driving by in his big old Eldorado, his Cadillac Eldorado. So, I got a kick out of that. I'd be sitting there, go, there goes Waylon. I thought it was just like maybe a one-time thing, but it was like every day. So, anyways, we started rehearsals, and I think we pretty much finished doing rehearsals. Like we rehearse every day. And I think in about 2 weeks we were ready to go into the studio. But what happened was he told me that what was called the bus line. I have no idea to this day what that was. But anyway, it was only a 4-track studio, but it prevented us from actually recording, I guess, more than one track at a time. So anyways, he said it'll be ready by next week. Next week rolls around, and still they hadn't got the problem fixed in the studio. So we moved the project from this place called Phoenix Studios, which was actually real close to the house. I think it was just like over one street on 17th. So we moved the project over to a studio called Castle Studios that was over around 18th, from what I remember. But it's not to be mistaken with there's a Castle Studios there now in Nashville. That's like I think a big world-class studio. It's a high-tech studio. This was just 1976 8 tracks, and I think 4 and 8 were the most common for cutting demos. I don't know if 16 tracks had come into existence at this point. I don't remember. I don't remember the progression of tracks. I remember 16, 24, 32, and it went through the roof. So anyways, we moved the session there, and everything went well on this session because we were so well rehearsed. We knocked everything out, pretty quick. And I remember I went into the control room and I was listening to them as they started doing the overdubs. I think they overdubbed some guitar parts. A keyboard player came in and he overdubbed his parts. And it seemed like just pretty much that night, we pretty much finished everything, And I remember leading up to this, the guy that I was doing the demo for, his name was Jim. He kept mentioning he was moving. And I thought, I'm gonna miss you. We had a great time, putting this session together. Plus, there was times that we would hang out after we would rehearse, And so shortly after that, I had gone back to Castle Studios for something, probably to do another session, because after that, I actually did quite a few sessions at the studio. And I asked Tom, can I get a copy of the session? I never got a copy of it. Can I get a cassette copy of it? And he said, no. He says, I don't have the master tape. He says, Jim took off with the master tape, and, I don't know where he went, and I don't know where he went either. So the sad thing is, it's my first session, but I never got a copy of it. Jim split town. And then shortly after that, again, because like I said, I would work at Castle quite often, so I would see the guy who owned the studio. His name was Tom. One day I went by there and he was like packing up, and I said, "What's going on, Tom?" And he goes, "Well, I got a job as working for a sound man for Rex Humbard." Now, I knew who he was because I had seen him occasionally on TV. He was a televangelist. So Tom was packing up and he was moving, and that was the end of Castle Studios, and I never got my cassette tape. And the thing about it was, though, I was really happy with what I did from what I can remember, and that's why I definitely wanted a copy. But that was like my first session of many to come after I lived in Nashville. And I would have to say, even to this day, the one part I love about being a musician is the creative part of working in a recording studio, and having the creative control to basically come up and write your own parts for the songs. A songwriter comes to you, they don't really know what they want, they play you their demo or whatever, and you just create the parts. And ever since then, that to me is one of the fun parts of playing in a band and recording. And even to this day, the band that I play with, they do a lot of original songs. And he'll just play the lead of the band. We'll play something, and I'll listen to it, and I'll just come up with my part, and that's the way it goes. So even though I've really never recorded anything with this band, but hopefully someday we will. And like I said, I love recording, I love being a musician, and that's Tell from the Road. Thanks for listening. God bless everybody, and until next time, we'll see what happens. Bye-bye.